The veil between worlds is thin in places where great power converges. Sometimes a tear forms, a momentary bridge across realities that should never touch. On this day, the lands between trembled as something crossed over, not by design, but by cosmic accident. A brilliant light carved through the ashen sky above Limgrave, streaking like a fallen star toward the ruins of the Church of Ella. The ground shook as it made impact, yet no crater formed. Instead, a man knelt where the light had touched down, his black-gloved hand pressed against the weathered stone, his head bowed as if in prayer or pain. Luke Skywalker opened his eyes to an alien world. The last thing he remembered was meditating on Achto, letting the Force flow through him, around him, between all things. Something had pulled him, not the dark side, not the light, but something ancient and powerful that resonated with the Force in ways he had never felt before. He rose slowly, taking in his surroundings. Crumbling architecture, once magnificent, now stood as testament to some forgotten civilization. In the distance, a massive golden tree dominated the landscape, its light casting an ethereal glow across the realm. The Force here felt different, wild, unbound by the familiar rules he had known. "This is not my galaxy," he whispered, his voice carrying on the wind. A sound drew his attention, hoofbeats approaching. Luke turned to see a rider in ornate golden armor stop some distance away, regarding him with caution. "Tarnished," the knight called out, "you appear from nowhere with strange garb and stranger energy about you. Are you friend to the Golden Order, or another lost soul seeking the shattered Elden ring?" Before Luke could answer, a spectral stag materialized beside the church ruins, its antlers glowing with the same golden light as the distant tree. "Beware, traveler from beyond the fog," the stag spoke without moving its mouth, its voice echoing in Luke's mind. "You have crossed into the lands between at a most perilous time. The demigods war amongst themselves, and the very order of this world hangs in balance." The Jedi Master sensed the truth in these words, feeling the chaotic currents of power flowing through this realm. Something told him his arrival was no accident, and that his departure would not come easily. The Knight of Limgrave approached cautiously, his golden armor catching the strange eternal twilight that blanketed the land. Luke stood his ground. Center calm, awareness expanded. This wasn't the first time he'd found himself in an unfamiliar world, though never one so distant from his own galaxy. "Your weapon," the knight said, gesturing to the lightsaber hanging at Luke's belt. "I've never seen its like before. Are you one of Raya Lucaria's sorcerers with some new invention?" Luke sensed no immediate hostility from the knight, merely curiosity and a deep-seated wariness that seemed common to veterans of countless battles. "I'm Luke Skywalker, Jedi Master," he replied, choosing honesty. "I was brought here by the Force, or perhaps something else. I mean no harm to anyone who doesn't threaten peace." The knight tilted his helmeted head. "Jedi! Force! Strange terms from distant lands, perhaps. As for peace," he gave a hollow laugh, "there has been no true peace in the lands between since the shattering, only moments between bloodshed." From the nearby ruins, a hunched figure emerged, an aging merchant with a peculiar pointed hat, who had been watching their exchange with keen interest. "Oh ho, a visitor from beyond our stars?" The merchant approached with a strange shuffling gait. "Kale, at your service. I've traveled far and heard many tales, but never one of a Jedi Master. Might I interest you in some wares while you acclimate to our humble dying world?" Luke sensed something off about the merchant, not danger exactly, but a deeper complexity hidden beneath his obsequious demeanor. Before he could respond, a screech tore through the air. Above them, a massive creature with leathery wings and a head full of elongated teeth circled, its predatory gaze fixed on the small gathering below. "Flying dragon, Agil," the knight muttered, drawing his sword. "It rarely ventures this close to the church. Your arrival must have stirred it." The dragon descended rapidly, its massive body crashing through the trees at the edge of the clearing. With a roar that shook the ground, it unleashed a torrent of flame toward them. Acting on instinct, Luke raised his hand. The fire split around an invisible barrier, scorching the earth to either side, but leaving Luke, the knight, and the merchant untouched. The knight stared in astonishment as Luke calmly reached for his lightsaber. The emerald blade hummed to life, casting its green glow across the clearing. The dragon paused, seemingly confused by this unfamiliar energy. "What manner of sorcery?" the knight whispered. "Not sorcery," Luke replied, settling into a defensive stance. "Just another kind of connection to life's energy." The dragon charged, its massive claws tearing up the earth. Luke moved with preternatural speed, dodging the creature's initial swipe before leaping onto its foreleg. The lightsaber sliced through scales that would have turned aside the strongest steel, drawing a pained screech from the beast. As Luke jumped clear, the knight joined the fray, his own blade glowing with a golden light as he struck at the dragon's flank. Together they moved in an improvised dance of combat, the knight's heavy, powerful strikes complementing Luke's fluid, precise movements. The merchant Kale watched from safety, eyes calculating. "Most interesting," he murmured to himself. "The Golden Order will certainly want to know of this newcomer, as will others." His gaze drifted toward the legacy dungeons in the distance, where greater powers waited. With a final concerted effort, Luke channeled the force through his free hand, staggering the dragon back long enough for the knight to drive his blade deep into its chest. The creature collapsed with a thunderous impact, its life force ebbing away. As the dust settled, the knight removed his helmet, revealing a weathered face marked by both age and battle. "I am Auron, Knight of the Erd Tree's Watch, and you, Luke Skywalker, fight like no tarnished I have ever seen." Luke deactivated his lightsaber, the emerald blade disappearing with a distinctive hiss. "I'm not sure what tarnished means, but I need to understand this world if I'm to find my way home." Auron gestured toward the distant golden-topped spires of a massive structure that dominated the eastern horizon. "Then you seek the Round Table Hold, where Gideon Ofnir the All-Knowing might shed light on your unique situation. But be warned, the path there is fraught with dangers, and not all who dwell in the hold welcome strangers." The spectral stag reappeared, regarding Luke with its ethereal gaze. "Your coming was foretold in no prophecy, Star Walker. Your power follows different laws than our sorceries or incantations. The demigods will sense you, hunt you, or seek to use you in their endless wars." Luke looked toward the enormous golden tree dominating the landscape, feeling its strange power radiating across the realm. "Then I'll need allies and knowledge, and quickly." The Carrion Knight Moongrum circled Luke warily, moonlight gleaming off his armor. He had been sent by his mistress to investigate the strange power that had appeared in Liurnia, and now he faced its source, a peculiar warrior whose fighting style and strange weapon were unlike anything seen in the lands between. "You wield sorcery, yet it is contained in that blade of light," Moongrum said, his voice echoing from behind his helmet. "Are you some creation of the Academy, or perhaps something older?" Luke held his lightsaber in a defensive stance, its emerald glow reflecting in the shallow waters surrounding the Raya Lucaria gate. "I'm just a visitor trying to find my way. I don't want to fight you." Moongrum laughed coldly. "In these lands, intent matters little. Only strength and allegiance." His sword flashed forward with supernatural speed. Luke parried the blow, the moonlight blade sizzling against his lightsaber. The force flowed around him, guiding his movements as he deflected Moongram's relentless attacks. Despite his skill, Luke found himself pushed back. The knight moved with a precision born of centuries of martial tradition. "Your technique is unusual," Moongram observed. "But you lack conviction." Luke felt the truth in those words. Since arriving in this world weeks ago, he had wandered, helped those he could, but avoided committing to any faction in this war-torn realm. The scars of his failure with Ben Solo with Kylo Ren still haunted him. After a fierce exchange, Luke leapt backward, putting distance between them. "I've seen enough death to last lifetimes," he said. "This land is trapped in an endless cycle of violence." "And what would you propose instead?" came a woman's voice. Both combatants turned to see Rani the witch approach, her forearms moving gracefully as she floated above the water's surface. Her porcelain face was fixed in an eternal smile, but her eyes held ancient wisdom. "The last Jedi meets the witch who would usurp the greater will," Rani said, her voice melodious yet unsettling. "I've been watching you, star-fallen wanderer." Luke lowered his lightsaber but didn't deactivate it. "You know what I am. I know you are not of this world, and that you carry power shaped by different laws." She gestured and Moongram sheathed his sword. "Come, we have much to discuss." In Rani's tower, surrounded by stars that seemed both familiar and alien to Luke, the witch revealed her ambition to free the lands between from the Golden Order and usher in an age of stars, where the influence of outer gods would be kept at bay. "Your force," Rani said, examining a small object Luke had levitated. "It resembles our sorcery, yet functions on principles beyond our understanding. And unlike our powers, it seems to require no covenant with higher beings." "The Force isn't something to be controlled or bargained with," Luke explained. "It's the energy between all living things. It binds the universe together." "How wonderfully naive." Rani's laugh was like wind chimes in a storm. "In the lands between, all power demands sacrifice. The fingers you've encountered, 2 fingers, 3 fingers," Luke nodded, "representatives of competing gods. And you've felt their influence, haven't you? The call of the frenzied flame promising to burn away all divisions, the Golden Order's rigid determinism." Luke had. In his travels, he'd felt echoes of the dark side in the frenzied flame's chaotic destruction. Yet the greater will's absolute control reminded him uncomfortably of the empire he'd fought against. "Where I come from," Luke said carefully, "we believe in balance, not control, not chaos, but harmony." "Balance," Rani repeated thoughtfully. "An intriguing concept, but one that has no place here. This world was broken when the Elden Ring was shattered. Now only a new order or complete destruction awaits." Days later, Luke stood before Melina at a site of grace near the Erd tree. Her ethereal form shimmered with golden light as she studied him. "You've spoken with the witch," she said, not a question but a statement of fact. "I have," Luke admitted, "and with Bled, Iji, and others who follow her." "And where do your sympathies lie, Jedi Master?" Melina's mismatched eyes seemed to peer into his soul. Luke sighed. "I understand Rani's desire for freedom, but her methods trouble me. Trading one distant god for another seems like replacing one problem with another. Yet you resist the guidance of the 2 fingers as well." "I've seen what happens when people or organizations claim absolute moral authority," Luke said, memories of the old Jedi Order's failures flooding back. "Even with the best intentions, it leads to blindness." Melina approached him, her form wavering like flame. The Golden Order offers stability, structure. Without it, what prevents the world from falling to madness, to the frenzied flame? People, Luke said simply. Ordinary people making choices, not gods, not destiny. A beautiful sentiment, Melina's voice grew sad, but this land has forgotten how to exist without gods. Look around you. Dragons serve as vessels for ancient powers, giants bear the curse of eternal fire, and humans graft limbs and heads to themselves, seeking strength. Luke had witnessed these horrors in his journeys. He'd helped where he could, saved those he could reach, but for every person he aided, thousands more suffered beyond his reach. Perhaps that's why I'm here, Luke said quietly. Not to become a lord, but to show another path. Melina's expression hardened. There is no other path. The Erd Tree must have its lord, or the world will never know healing. In the scarlet wastes of Kalid, Luke faced Commander Radan, the Star Scourge, a once great general now reduced to mindless hunger by rot and madness. The massive warrior charged across the battlefield, gravity magic pulling meteors from the sky as warriors from across the lands between participated in his ritual combat festival. Luke rolled beneath Radan's massive blade, the force enhancing his movements. Around him, phantoms of summoned warriors fell to Radan's onslaught. "He holds back the stars themselves," shouted Alexander, the living jar who had become Luke's unlikely friend. "Even in madness his duty binds him." Luke felt it. Radan's gravity magic was indeed holding celestial bodies in place. If the general fell, Rani's plan would advance. If he remained, the stagnation would continue. As Luke parried another devastating blow, he reached out with the force, touching Radan's fractured mind. Beyond the rot and madness, he sensed duty, honor, and unbearable pain. "There's still goodness in him," Luke muttered, "just as there was still good in my father." He deactivated his lightsaber and stood before the charging giant. "What are you doing?" Alexander cried out in alarm. Luke raised his hand, channeling the force not as a weapon, but as healing. It was a technique he had been developing since arriving in this world, combining force healing with the golden grace he'd observed in Melina's power. Radan hesitated, his massive body trembling as Luke's power touched his corrupted mind. "I can't save you completely," Luke said, straining with effort, "but I can ease your pain, help you remember who you were. The rot couldn't be fully purged. It was too deeply embedded, too tied to the influence of an outer god. But as Luke maintained the connection, Radan's attacks grew more controlled, less frenzied. The great general sank to his knees, recognition briefly flickering in his ravaged features. "Perhaps there is another way," Alexander whispered in awe. "Neither the path of lords, nor the age of stars, but something balanced," as Radan bowed his massive head. Luke felt a shift in the world around him. He had neither killed nor conquered the Star Scourge, but had found a third path, one of compassion and healing. In the distance, watching from a cliff edge, Rani's spectral form disappeared, her plans momentarily disrupted by this unexpected development. And high above, in the Erd Tree's golden boughs, the two fingers trembled, sensing a change they could not comprehend or control. The clash of Luke's lightsaber against Moongram's moonlight blade sent cascading showers of sparks across Liurnia's waters. With each exchange, the Karian knight grew more frustrated, his attacks becoming increasingly desperate as Luke's force-enhanced reflexes kept him one step ahead. "You fight unlike any warrior I've encountered," Moongram conceded, his breathing labored. "Perhaps Raya Lucaria would benefit from your knowledge." "I seek knowledge as well," Luke replied, deactivating his lightsaber as a gesture of peace. About the Erd tree and the strange calling I felt upon arriving here? Something in Luke's words gave the knight pause. He lowered his blade slightly. The Erd tree has been corrupted, the Elden ring shattered. If you truly are drawn to it, then perhaps. Moongram's words trailed off as he studied Luke. Seek Queen Renala in the academy. She may provide guidance, though she is not as she once was. With that cryptic advice, Moongrum stepped aside, allowing Luke passage through the academy gate. Inside Raya Lucaria, Luke navigated the labyrinthine halls, past hostile sorcerers and strange creatures. The Academy's architecture reminded him vaguely of certain ancient Jedi temples, places where knowledge and power were carefully guarded. Through meditation and careful use of Force persuasion, he avoided most conflicts, though several times his lightsaber flashed to deflect magical projectiles sent his way. In the Grand Library, he finally stood before Queen Renala, a sorrowful figure cradling a golden egg, surrounded by her children, reborn scholars whose minds had not returned intact. Her gaze, when it fell upon Luke, seemed to look through him rather than at him. "Another visitor seeking rebirth," she murmured, "or perhaps something more?" "I seek understanding," Luke said gently. "I was drawn here through the Force, through something connecting my world to yours." At the mention of connection, Renala's eyes cleared momentarily. "The stars, they guide all fates, even those from beyond our sky." She gestured weakly toward the ceiling. "The greater will sent its golden order. But other outer gods, other influences, they reach for us, too." Luke sensed the profound truth in her words. The Force manifested differently here, but its cosmic nature remained consistent, binding worlds together across unimaginable distances. "The Erd tree calls to you because you are tarnished, yet not tarnished," she continued, her lucidity surprising her attendants. "A paradox. The shattered ring seeks those who might restore order, any order." "Where must I go?" Luke asked. "The mountain tops of the giants. There lies the path to the heart of everything." Her moment of clarity faded, and she returned to her mournful rocking. Luke's journey took him through Altus Plateau and the capital outskirts, where the war-torn landscapes and fallen knights reminded him painfully of battlefields he'd seen across the galaxy. At Leyndell, royal capital, he witnessed the grandeur of the Golden Order, a civilization built around faith in forces beyond mortal comprehension. There, in the shadow of the Erd tree, Luke encountered Melina, the mysterious maiden who offered guidance to Tarnished. "Your presence disrupts the weave of destiny here," she told him as they sat before a sight of grace, its golden tendrils reaching toward Luke with unusual intensity. "You carry a power unlike any I have seen. Neither outer god nor greater will guides you." "The Force flows through all living things," Luke explained. "In my world, it binds the galaxy together. Here it seems to manifest differently, but I can feel its presence." Melina studied him curiously. "Perhaps that is why you were brought here. The lands between stands at a crossroads. The shattering of the Elden ring has left us in an age of fracture and stagnation." She gestured toward the distant golden tree. "The path forward is sealed within the Erd tree, but reaching it requires a sacrifice." Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden tremor that shook the very foundations of the capital. The sky darkened as a massive, twisted form descended from above. Morg, Lord of Blood, had chosen this moment to launch his assault on Leyndell, seeking to establish his dynasty while the defenses of the capital were weakened. "He senses your power," Melina warned as blood-red storm clouds gathered. "The lords of this realm feel the balance shifting with your presence." Luke ignited his lightsaber as Mog's blood-soaked followers poured into the district. Then it's time they understood I didn't come here to conquer. The battle that ensued tore through the streets of Lindell. Luke moved like a verdant whirlwind, his lightsaber cutting through corrupted knights and blood-sworn warriors. He deflected spells and arrows, using the Force to hurl debris at his attackers. Yet for each enemy that fell, more rose to replace them. Mog himself descended upon the central plaza, his trident dripping with sacred blood. Standing twice Luke's height, the Lord of Blood laughed, a horrible gurgling sound. "The formless mother shall feast on your essence, Skywalker," he declared. "Your power will fuel the birth of our dynasty." Luke centered himself in the Force, feeling its currents flowing differently here, twisted by the influence of the outer gods, yet still fundamentally connected to the energy he knew. "Your dynasty offers only suffering," Luke replied. "I've seen where paths like yours lead." Their clash shook the foundations of Leyndell. Mog's blood magic erupted in crimson geysers around Luke, who leapt and spun with Force-enhanced agility. His lightsaber seared through Mog's defenses, leaving glowing wounds that the Lord of Blood healed almost instantly with his foul sorcery. "You cannot defeat a god tarnished," Mog roared, enveloping himself in a cocoon of blood that expanded outward. Luke closed his eyes, reaching deeper into the Force than he had since arriving in the lands between. He felt the connections between himself, Mog, the Erd Tree, the very fabric of this reality. With perfect clarity, he understood what had drawn him here. The Force had brought him to be a catalyst, not a savior. The cycle of this world differed from his own, but its balance had been disturbed by the shattering of the Elden Ring, creating ripples across realities that had inadvertently pulled him through. Luke deactivated his lightsaber and raised his hand. The blood magic surging toward him slowed, then stopped entirely as he channeled the Force to create a barrier of pure energy. "This isn't my world to save or rule," Luke said calmly, "but I can help restore its balance." He reached out not with aggression but with understanding, touching Mog's consciousness through the Force. The Lord of Blood recoiled as Luke showed him visions of other possibilities, worlds where cooperation had succeeded, where domination had failed. The mental connection created a feedback loop. As Luke touched Mog's mind, the energies of the lands between flowed through him. The golden light of the Erd Tree and the crimson influence of the Formless Mother collided within Luke's consciousness, revealing the truth. The path home required him to become a conduit for this world's fractured forces. With a deafening crack, a rift appeared in the air behind Luke, a gateway shimmering with stars. The Force was opening a path back to his galaxy. "Your journey here ends, outsider," Melina said, appearing beside him. "But your presence has altered the tapestry of fate. The tarnished who follow will find new paths because you walked here." Luke nodded, understanding now why he had been brought. "The Force will be with you always," he told her, stepping toward the portal. As Luke Skywalker departed the lands between, the energy he had channeled dispersed across the realm. The grace of the Erd Tree flowed with renewed purpose, guiding new tarnished toward their destinies. Stories would spread of the warrior with a blade of light who had walked among them briefly, neither lord nor servant, but a wayward star that had illuminated new possibilities. In the Jedi Temple on Yavin IV, Luke emerged from his meditation chamber, his consciousness fully returned from its journey. The ancient Sith artifact that had triggered his spiritual voyage lay inert on the pedestal before him, its power spent. He smiled faintly, recording in his journal the wisdom gained from walking between worlds. The Force, he now understood with greater clarity than ever before, connected not just all living things within a galaxy, but all possible realities across the cosmos, each with its own balance to maintain, its own destiny to fulfill. And in the lands between, at sites of grace across the realm, tarnished warriors occasionally glimpse a ghostly figure with a blade of emerald light, a reminder that even the most rigid fate can be rewritten.